Welcome back. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating, and let's be honest, kind of weird, rituals in the entire Bible, the Law of the Red Heifer from Numbers chapter 19. We're going to break this down, verse by verse, into a visual story that you will not forget.
So let's just jump right in. The entire chapter revolves around this one huge question. How do you deal with the spiritual contamination that comes from death? It's an invisible problem, right? So how was this ancient ritual designed to solve it? Let's find out.
Our story starts not with death, but with a really strange and very specific instruction. This is the setup, the foundation for everything else that's about to happen.
Okay, verses 1 and 2. Here's the first instruction, straight from God. Find a red heifer. That's a young cow. But listen to these requirements. It has to be absolutely perfect, without a single scar or blemish. And get this, it must never have been used for work. It has never, ever felt the weight of a yoke on its shoulders. It has to be completely pristine.
Verse 3. Now imagine this flawless animal being handed over to Eleazar, the high priest's son. He leads it on this solemn walk, taking it specifically outside the camp. This isn't happening in the center of town. It's a sacred, serious act, set apart from everyone else. Verse 4. And here Eleazar performs the first key part of the ritual. He takes some of the heifer's blood on his finger and, facing towards the holy tabernacle in the distance, he sprinkles it. 1, 2, 3, 7 times. That number 7 always points to completion or perfection. It's a powerful symbolic gesture connecting this sacrifice directly to the presence of God.
Okay, now the scene gets really intense. A huge fire is built and the entire heifer is burned. And the text makes it super clear. Everything, its hide, its flesh, its blood, the whole thing is utterly consumed by the flames. It is a total, complete consumption.
And right in the middle of this raging fire, the priest does something else. Just picture this in slow motion. He takes 3 things: a piece of cedar wood, which is strong and fragrant, a small sprig of hyssop, a plant they always used for cleansing, and a thread of bright scarlet yarn, a color often linked to life and blood. He bundles them together and throws them right into the heart of the fire.
So, that dramatic ritual is over. But you know what? The fire wasn't the point. What it creates is the absolute key to this entire chapter. It's all about the ashes.
Now verses 7 and 8 give us a really interesting twist. The very act of creating this holy substance actually makes the people involved unclean. Both the priest and the man who managed the fire have to stop, wash their clothes, and bathe in water. They're considered ritually impure until the evening. Kind of strange, right? Verses 9 and 10. Next up, another man, someone who is ritually clean, comes and carefully gathers up all those fine gray ashes. He puts this precious material into a clay jar and stores it in a clean place outside the camp. These ashes, they're now the powerful, ready-to-use ingredient for purifying the entire community.
All right, so we have the solution. These sacred ashes, tucked away safely. Now, let's turn to the profound and, well, pervasive problem they were created to solve, the spiritual shadow that is cast by death itself.
Verse 11. Picture a very normal, very human scene. Someone reaches out and gently touches the hand of a loved one who has passed away. The Bible says that in that single moment of contact, a kind of spiritual uncleanness, totally invisible but absolutely real, falls on them. And this state lasts for 7 days.
Verse 12 gives us the timeline for getting clean again. It's not a one-and-done deal. The person must be purified on the 3rd day and then again on the 7th day. You have to follow this 2-step process to a T. It's the only way.
And verse 13 shows us just how serious this was. If someone ignores this ritual, if they don't get purified, and then they try to approach the holy tabernacle, well, they're seen as defiling it. The penalty for that is to be cut off from the community. The stakes are incredibly high.
So let's pause for a second. What does unclean even mean here? It's not about being physically dirty or needing a shower. Think of it more like being spiritually disqualified. It's this temporary state that makes a person unable to come into the presence of a perfectly holy God. Verses 14 and 15 show us that this contamination spreads. It's like an invisible cloud that fills a tent where someone has died. Anyone who enters that tent, and even any open jar or pot inside it, also becomes unclean for 7 days.
And in verse 16, we see the rule applies outdoors too. If you're out in a field and you touch a human bone or even just a grave, the same thing happens. You become unclean for 7 days.
Okay, so we have the ashes, which is the solution. We have the problem, the shadow of death. Now let's see how it all comes together. This is the solution in action.
Verse 17. Let's visualize the process. Someone takes just a small pinch of those sacred ashes from the jar. They put the ash into a new pot and then pour fresh, living water over it. That means running water like from a spring or a stream. And that simple mixture creates what the Bible calls the water of purification.
Verse 18. Here's how it's used. A clean person takes a hyssop branch, remember that same plant from the fire, dips it into this special water, and then walks through the contaminated tent. They sprinkle the water on the people and on all the objects, directly applying the remedy to everything that death has touched.
Verse 19 hammers home that timeline one more time because it's so important. The sprinkling happens on day 3, and then it happens again on day 7. After that final sprinkling, the person washes their clothes, bathes, and by that evening, they are finally completely clean. Verse 20 circles right back to how serious this is. Someone who is unclean and just refuses to be purified, they're seen as actively choosing to defile God's sanctuary. And the consequence doesn't change. They are to be cut off from the community.
And finally, verses 21 and 22 wrap up the chapter with 2 last reminders. First, this isn't some temporary law. It's a perpetual statute. It's meant to last forever. And second, it reinforces just how contagious this ritual impurity is. Whatever an unclean person touches also becomes unclean until evening.
Wow. So this incredibly complex ritual, it reveals this deep, ancient concern with life, death, and what it really takes to approach holiness. It's such a powerful picture, and it really leaves us with a question to think about, doesn't it? What does it mean for us to be, quote, clean enough to draw near to what is sacred?